Hi, this is Stephanie Miller from The Stephanie Miller Show. Please enjoy this exclusive clip from my show on Political Voices Network. Here is my favorite piece of yours is Mark Meadows singing sweet melodies to the feds about his former employer. You said it's not it's not that I find it implausible. It's the only way Meadows can keep from spending some of his golden years in the Gray Bar Hotel. A source close to Trump's legal team said Trump's lawyers have had no contact with Meadows and his teams and are in the dark about what Meadows is doing in the investigation. Yeah, he's been radio silent for quite some time, right, Jody?
Yeah, that's that. Were I on the Trump defense team, and I thank God every day that I'm not. I'd be worried about the fact that we're not hearing anything from this guy.
Yeah.
And apparently nobody knows where he is.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you said I'm going to hold fire.
I think he's in a Motel 6 in Virginia watching Spectrodine a lot and talking to the prosecutors for a couple hours every day, but that's just me.
Yeah. You said I'm going to hold fire until there's something more solid than what amounts to an aside in an account of how Meadows is still a power broker in the insane crazy caucus. However, if that speculation turns out to be true, I'm going to be the least surprised person in the universe. I mean, the latest story today is, Evan Corcoran saying he was steered away from where the really good classified stuff was in Mar-a-Lago. I mean, so he's involved in the commission of a crime. Jim is it Paratori? What's his name?
Palatori.
Had to quit probably because now he's a witness to obstruction. I mean, that's how these dominoes are going to fall, isn't it?
Yeah, there was an office door at Mar-a-Lago that said really important classified documents.
No classified documents in here at all.
Authorized personnel only.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. It seems like at a certain point, the crime fraud exception applies to all of Trump's lawyers because
that's it. In this case, I wouldn't call the crime fraud exception an exception.
Yeah,
it
right.
Seems to be the rule.
Yeah, the crime fraud rule. You're right, exactly. Yeah. We love out here in Hollywood that they had a rehearsal. Yeah. That's my favorite. Yeah, they had a rehearsal for crime. Like bank robbers, rehearse the bank.
Well, you got it.
The bank job before they do it, in the Sting.
Sure. In the Sting.
Yeah, I mean, you got to get notes, right? I mean, you got to run through the thing. You have a table read for the crime first, and
blocking.
Make sure nobody breaks their ankle.
Then it's got to go to crime standards and practices.
Right.
And you get network notes.
Yes, the suits come down and give you notes. Exactly.
As I once asked in a USC theater production, but what's my motivation to move over there? The director said, because that's where the light will be. Charlie. So what do you think
I
is
want to talk some more smut. Go ahead.
All right. What do you think is going to happen? We have said over and over if
that's kind of a wide open.
That's
question.
A very open-ended question.
No, but I mean this debt thing. We were saying someone, I don't know, it was David Frum or somebody said Democrats better get on Twitter and start saying how much they hate this deal because that's clearly we don't know what Kevin McCarthy is going to be able to do.
No, I have absolutely no idea whether or not McCarthy can bring enough of his caucus along. I hope he doesn't. I hope that he doesn't get a lot of Democrats on board. Maybe just enough Democrats to pass it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But I want him, hung up on these crazy people he's allowed to run the House.
Yeah.
I want that to be an issue.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I mean, it'll start with the Rules Committee's meeting today, and there are some real prize sides of beef on that committee.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
My friend Jim McGovern can just sit back and laugh.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean,
I don't know. I mean, I am continually amazed, and I can't figure out which of these it is, but either no Republican actually understands what the debt ceiling is, or they're all determined to pretend they don't.
Yeah. I mean,
it doesn't have anything to do with next year's budget.
Right.
I was traveling, Charlie, so I didn't get to, listen to every detail of this, but I swear to God, all you do is go, oh, it's making all the right people mad. So you know that it must be a Biden win. And I think once again,
more than mad, it's sending them into what my mother would have called hysterics.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, but I just think it's that because that has become their only governing principle is owning the libs. Mm-hmm. It's just what makes liberals mad.
Yeah, I mean, or performance, performance pieces for Fox News and your next gig at Newsmax.
Yeah.
There's no philosophy, there's no governing philosophy there.
Yeah. Well,
even if McCarthy had one, he couldn't enforce it because he's in the hands of the crazy people.
Yep. Yeah. No, exactly. Well, listen, I don't know if this was by accident, but listen to the president yesterday.
Do you think it's time for the U.S. to get rid of the debt limit? That this is, for the reasons you just laid out?
No, I think it would cause more controversy getting rid of the debt limit, although I am exploring the idea that we would, at a later date, a year or two from now, decide whether or not the 14th Amendment, how that actually would impact on whether or not you need to do the debt limit every year. But that's another day.
Yeah. I mean,
you don't need the debt. You don't need the debt ceiling.
No.
Right.
Pay your damn bills.
Yep.
Right.
That's simple.
Yeah, it's so stupid that we go through this.
This was a device concocted to deal with a ginned-up economic crisis, and it should have been dumped a decade ago.
Yeah.
And now it's being used to create another ginned-up economic crisis.
Yeah.
So no, I mean, I'm glad he's talking about the 14th Amendment, although I'll believe that when I see it. But the debt, there's no point to the debt ceiling.
Yeah. Do you think lemmings ever, when they're about to go off the cliff every year, go, should we do this every year, or should we maybe come up with another plan? I
think they're all fully committed. I think they've made an agreement and they're sticking to it.
Yeah.
Now,
exactly.
I'm not saying they don't have second thoughts on the way down.
Yeah.
Because they probably do. It was a really good
maybe
idea.
Should have negotiated. Yeah. So we just talked about Ken Paxton. I mean, you just said it's
that's the greatest story of the week. Are you kidding?
You said
they've accused him of everything except being on the grassy knoll.
Right. You said
in terms of Texas crime.
It's never been a good idea for a state to have an AG who's been under indictment for nearly a decade. Yeah. But hey, Texas, boy, I don't know. I mean, that's what I kept wondering. How has this gone on this long?
Yeah.
He's gotten reelected.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that he's under indictment.
Right.
And now they're surprised. Now that they're surprised that once he's in office, he turned out to be a crook.
Right.
Alleged crook.
Yeah. Yeah, but I was saying that it's just there's no amount.
Do you know how much of an alleged crook you have to be to get that kind of vote from Texas Republicans?
Right.
Well, that's what I was reading the tweet. Someone said there's no level.
You got to pretty much show up in the chamber with a mask and a gun.
Yeah.
And ask.
We were just saying there's no level of criminality that because Donald Trump, I think, has poisoned the well, the conspiracy well, that it just becomes witch hunt, hoax, fake news whenever it's someone from your tribe. There seems to be no level of evidence that Republican, the MAGA crowd anyway, accepts.
Well, I mean, it seems like the Texas Republicans have had enough of this guy.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned about Stuart Rhodes. You said, I'm not entirely sure why Stuart Rhodes ever should be let out of prison, let alone after 18 years. The man's a terrorist as much as was the blind sheik, and he died in a federal prison. I mean, yeah, I don't know how much worse you could get than Stuart Rhodes. I mean, he led the whole thing, right?
I mean, I'm glad he's going away, and I'm glad that that the perception is that he's being, that he's gotten a stiff sentence. But I don't make any difference between him and an Islamic terrorist that we're or one of those guys that we've been holding without charges in Guantanamo since the 18th century or whatever.
Since Ron DeSantis was assistant urinalysis coordinator at Gitmo.
Yeah, that was one of those things, right? He was the deputy assistant executive urinalysis.
Oh my God, he's such a phony too. Like this new commercial with the fighter jets. I'm like, you were the guy in charge of the pee. Not even you were the assistant guy in charge of the pee.
The urine, not the vegetable.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Thank you. Clarification.
And also, the planes weren't real.
You're right.
They had to CG planes into it.
That's going to be the next sequel. Top Gun Specimen Jar.
Republicans say they won't cut Social Security, Medicare, or Medicaid. But can honest, hard-working middle-class Americans really believe what these politicians say? Republicans said they wouldn't overturn Roe v. Wade. Here's what Supreme Court Justices Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Coney Barrett said during their Senate confirmation hearings.
Roe v. Wade. It is a precedent of the United States Supreme Court. A good judge will consider it as precedent of the United States Supreme Court.
Roe v. Wade. It's settled as a precedent of the Supreme Court.
Roe is not a super precedent, but that doesn't mean that Roe should be overruled.
Well, we saw how that turned out. They played us for fools. Tell your elected officials to keep their hands off of our Social Security and healthcare benefits. Fool me once. Let Majority Rule was responsible for this message. LetMajorityRule.org is a project of the Marvin Lucas Super PAC, which is responsible for and paid for this ad and is not affiliated with or authorized by any political campaign or candidate or candidates committee.